The first screech of tires echoed through the fog-drenched coastal road, a sound that would haunt the town for decades. Detective Mara Whitlock arrived at the scene, her breath misting in the icy night air. The black Plymouth Barracuda parked impossibly under a flickering street lamp. Every owner of this car had died the same way, a single violent crash. No witnesses, no explanations. The locals whispered curses in hushed tones, and even the police seemed unwilling to probe further. Mara's eyes traced the car's ominous curves as she stepped closer, her heart hammering with both fear and fascination. Something about this vehicle felt alive, patient, waiting. The car had claimed its latest victim just hours before. Mara traced the skid marks across the wet asphalt, each turn and twist a silent signature of the cursed machine. Witnesses were absent, evidence minimal, and the local police had abandoned the case before she arrived. The Barracuda sat idle, a predator waiting for the next foolhardy soul to take the wheel. Each scratch, each reflection seemed deliberate, as though the car itself were aware of her scrutiny. James Caldwell's notes were meticulous: dates, times, accident patterns, and eerie coincidences between each owner. Mara flipped through them, heart racing. Every entry pointed to the same fate: violent, unavoidable, and always in isolation. The more she read, the more the car's sinister presence pressed against her senses, like a living shadow watching her every move. The townspeople whispered about the black curse on wheels, each story more chilling than the last. Eleanor Reed had been following the trail for weeks, capturing photographs in the dead of night. Every frame seemed to whisper, warning her away, yet drawing her closer. The Barracuda's allure was undeniable, a predator cloaked in chrome and shadow. The final witness, Officer Tom Jenkins, remained resolutely dismissive, refusing to examine the patterns. He turned away from the Barracuda with a scowl, leaving Mara alone in the misty street, staring at the predator she could not yet define. One truth was clear: the car waited, patient, calculating, and no one, not even the law, would interfere. Mara returned to the Barracuda's latest scene. The next morning, the fog replaced by a low-gray drizzle. She reviewed police logs and accident reports, tracing every death connected to the car. Patterns emerged, each owner alone, each crash inexplicably precise, each investigation mysteriously stalled. The car was more than metal and tires. It was a sentinel of fate, silently dictating life and death. Mara felt the weight of every unanswered question pressing against her mind. Neighbors whispered of the Barracuda appearing in strange places overnight, sometimes parked where it had no business, sometimes merely glimpsed in reflections or shadows. Mara questioned witnesses, piecing together accounts that felt less like reality and more like folklore. With each story, the car's influence seemed to expand, its presence bending chance and human perception alike. James Caldwell's apartment was a shrine to obsession. Mara sifted through yellowed pages of meticulous records, diagrams, and cryptic notes. The man's paranoia seemed justified. He had mapped each death with an accuracy that sent chills down her spine. Every line, every annotation whispered a single, terrifying truth. The Barracuda was not a vehicle. It was a predator that waited for those foolish enough to claim ownership. The police reports provided no closure. Officer Jenkins refused to discuss the cases in depth, waving Mara off with irritation. Every attempt to obtain formal evidence was met with bureaucratic resistance. It was as though the Barracuda's shadow extended into the very system meant to investigate it, ensuring silence and preserving its lethal anonymity. Mara began to realize the Barracuda's curse was more than coincidence. Each death, each skipped investigation, every whispered rumor formed a pattern too deliberate to ignore. She felt the car's presence even when it was nowhere in sight, an invisible force nudging her, testing her, daring her to look closer. And with every step, she knew that curiosity might be her most dangerous enemy. Mara could no longer shake the feeling that the barracuda watched her. At night, she heard whispers from the empty garage, shadows twisting unnaturally along walls. Each photograph Eleanor Reed had taken seemed to move subtly, when unobserved, reflections hinting at forms that weren't there. The line between reality and nightmare blurred. The car was no longer just an object. It was a presence, a living entity, shaping fate itself, and every pulse of her heartbeat echoed in its mechanical silence. James Caldwell's notes had escalated from careful records to frantic scribbles and warnings. Mara studied the pages, heart hammering. Each symbol and annotation hinted at a ritualistic pattern, a cycle repeating itself with cruel precision. The barracuda's previous owners hadn't died by chance. They had been ensnared, puppets in a game they never knew existed. Every page Mara turned seemed to hum with energy, as if the car itself approved of her discovery. Mara began sleeping in her clothes, leaving lights on, doors unlocked. But the barracuda haunted her dreams. She saw herself behind the wheel, speeding uncontrollably toward an unseen abyss. She woke gasping, the fog of sleep lingering in her room, and the faint reflection of black chrome in her bedroom mirror. Each night, the line between dream and reality thinned, and Mara realized the car's influence extended far beyond physical proximity. It could invade the mind itself. Eleanor Reed's latest photographs revealed subtle anomalies, blurred figures in the driver's seat, impossible reflections, shadows moving against natural light. Mara stared at the images, a chill climbing her spine. The barracuda wasn't just cursed. It was sentient, capable of manipulating perception. Every image captured its malevolent intelligence, daring them to investigate further, daring them to step closer to inevitable death. The barracuda's presence became physical. Doors slammed, lights flickered, and shadows elongated without source. Mara's pulse quickened as she stood in an abandoned parking lot, alone. She realized that the car didn't just kill, it lured, tempted, and ensnared. Each owner had been drawn willingly, each death orchestrated with chilling inevitability. And as she faced the sleek, black shape looming in the mist, Mara knew she was no longer investigating the car. She was part of its story, and the final chapter might be hers. Mara's apartment became a cage. Every reflective surface hinted at the barracuda's silhouette, even when the streets were empty. Objects shifted subtly when unobserved. Keys vanished, doors creaked open, shadows crawled across walls. Sleep evaded her, replaced by a gnawing awareness that the car's no longer confined to the asphalt. It had followed her, insinuated itself into her life, and every step she took only drew her deeper into its invisible grip. She tried to leave town, drive away, but the car appeared on every street she turned down. Every attempt to distance herself failed. Panic settled into her bones, a constant pressure in her chest. Even the fog seemed to conspire with the barracuda, hiding and revealing it at will. Mara realized she was no longer pursuing answers. She was being hunted, her obsession feeding the very force she feared. Mara barricaded herself in her apartment, yet the barracuda's influence intensified. Electronics hummed and died, lights flickered erratically, and the faint sound of an engine idling echoed through her walls. She began hearing voices, whispers in the fog outside, each one mimicking a previous owner calling her name. Sleep, sanity, and reality were all slipping away under the car's persistent, patient presence. Desperation led Mara to James Caldwell's notes again. They were no longer mere records. They were instructions, fragmented clues of survival embedded in frantic handwriting. She discovered a ritual, a sequence of actions linked to the barracuda's original creation. It promised temporary reprieve, but demanded absolute focus and courage. Every mistake could be fatal. Yet, every step forward was the only way to reclaim control from the car's relentless grip. The barracuda's presence became tangible. Cold air currents brushed her skin, The faint scent of gasoline permeated the room, and reflections in glass warped unnaturally. Mara knew isolation had been the car's strategy all along, stripping her of allies, of distractions, leaving her alone to confront the inevitability of its curse. And in the stillness, she realized that this confrontation would decide not only her survival but the fate of any future owner who dared touch its black chrome. Mara stepped onto the abandoned lot where the Barracuda had appeared countless times. The fog hung heavy, mingling with the acrid scent of gasoline. She gripped James Caldwell's notes like a lifeline, knowing they might guide her through the inevitable confrontation. The car sat silently, its black chrome reflecting the dim street lamps, almost sentient in its stillness. Every instinct screamed to run, yet she moved closer, compelled by obsession, curiosity, and the grim determination to survive. She tried to destroy it, swinging a metal pipe at the car's hood. The Barracuda absorbed each strike, the sound hollow, unnatural. Windows reflected not her own face, but those of past victims, silent screams frozen in time. The car wasn't just indestructible, it was aware. Every movement, every attempt at dominance was anticipated. Mara felt herself being measured, tested, and cornered by the machine she had once only observed from a distance. Officer Jenkins arrived, siren off, flashlight trembling in his hand. He froze, unable to intervene as Mara confronted the car. The fog thickened unnaturally, and shadows stretched like claws. Even he felt the car's malevolent intelligence, the pull of its curse. No amount of law, authority, or logic could pierce the Barracuda's influence. It existed outside human jurisdiction, untouchable, omnipresent, and lethal. Mara's desperation peaked as the car's engine roared without a key, lights flaring like eyes. She realized there was no conventional escape. The Barracuda demanded submission, and every instinct screamed that resistance could mean death. But surrender was no solution either. Her mind raced, tracing Caldwell's notes, seeking patterns, rituals, loopholes, anything that might allow her to outwit a machine that defied reason, law, and mortality itself. Lightning split the sky as Mara enacted the ritual outlined in Caldwell's notes, a precise sequence of movements around the car. The Barracuda trembled as if aware of the threat, shadows pulsing along its edges. For a moment, time seemed suspended. The fog, the rain, the engine's growl, all paused in anticipation. Mara held her breath, confronting the unthinkable. Could one human survive a machine that had claimed every other owner? And would surviving it mean ending the curse? Or joining it? Mara discovered a hidden diary, tucked beneath the floorboards of James Caldwell's apartment, bound in worn, black leather. Its pages revealed the Barracuda's sinister origins, a ritualistic creation designed to harvest life from those who claimed it. Each owner had unknowingly stepped into a cycle of inevitability, their deaths preordained. Mara traced the scrawled lines with trembling fingers, feeling the weight of every soul the car had claimed, and realized that understanding the curse might be her only chance at survival. The diary described a series of rituals performed by the car's original creator, a man obsessed with controlling fate through machinery. Every owner became part of an ongoing experiment, a test of human curiosity against a malevolent, sentient object. Mara read how each death mirrored the previous, an unbroken chain of mechanical predation and human fragility. Understanding the ritual was not comfort, it was terror in written form, proof of an unstoppable design. Mara realized the police's refusal to investigate was no accident. Officer Jenkins had been influenced, subtly manipulated to leave the pattern untouched. The diary hinted that the Barracuda's curse extended beyond the physical, bending human will and perception. Every skeptic, every investigator, every witness had been nudged, coerced, or silenced, leaving the car free to pursue its unbroken chain of victims with surgical precision. The diary revealed the key to breaking the cycle, but it demanded precision, courage, and absolute focus. One misstep could bind Mara to the same fate as every other owner. The Barracuda had always tested its victims, preying on fear, obsession, and doubt. Mara understood that her confrontation in the parking lot had only scratched the surface. Survival meant completing the ritual exactly as written, confronting both the car and her own instincts, and refusing the lure of its sentient will. For the first time, Mara glimpsed the full extent of the Barracuda's reach, a chain of deaths stretching decades, each meticulously orchestrated. The diary contained the car's own rules, a manual for its predatory existence. She realized that understanding it was not enough. She had to act, or the cycle would continue unbroken. The Barracuda waited patiently, as if sensing her newfound awareness, ready to judge her resolve and determine if she would survive, or become the next inevitable casualty. Mara returned to the abandoned lot, diary clutched tightly, fog rolling thick around her. Every sound felt amplified. The hum of the street lamp, the distant crash of waves, the soft whisper of tires on wet asphalt. The Barracuda sat waiting, black chrome gleaming like liquid shadow. For the first time, Mara felt a spark of hope, understanding the curse might allow her to survive. Yet fear coiled in her stomach. One misstep could make her the next name in the diary. Following the diary's instructions, Mara began the ritual. Candles formed a circle, symbols traced precisely on the asphalt. The Barracuda trembled, shadows stretching and pulsing unnaturally. The air thickened with tension, and for the first time Mara sensed resistance, not just from the car, but from fate itself. Every heartbeat echoed in the fog, every breath synchronized with the car's silent anticipation. She knew that survival required absolute focus. Hesitation would be fatal. The Barracuda roared to life without a key, lights flaring like eyes. Mara's pulse raced, hands steady as she completed the final gestures. The ground trembled subtly beneath her, shadows twisting into impossible shapes. The diary's words guided her, every motion deliberate, every thought controlled. Time felt suspended, reality warped, and for a moment, the predator seemed uncertain, a fleeting chance, the balance teetering between life and death. Lightning split the sky, illuminating the Barracuda as it shuddered and shimmered. Mara felt the car's presence recede, the oppressive weight lifting slightly. She took a cautious step back, heart pounding, unsure if victory was real or imagined. The fog thinned, revealing the abandoned lot empty, but the chrome gleamed in a way that suggested the curse was not entirely gone. The Barracuda waited, patient, its intent unreadable. A predator that might vanish, or return. Mara walked away, diary in hand, footsteps echoing on wet asphalt. She glanced once more at the Barracuda, its outline fading into the fog. A shiver ran down her spine. Had she truly survived, or had the car simply chosen to wait for the next owner? The answer remained suspended, unresolved. The curse persisted in silence, patient, perfect, and lethal. The Barracuda had claimed many before, and perhaps it would claim many more.